Hello everybody, Professor Barth here, Associate Professor of History at Arizona State University. The views expressed in this video, of course, are my own. I'm a student of history, I'm a historian. I study the U.S. Constitution. I teach on the U.S. Constitution in at least 2 classes, my U.S. History Survey to 1865, but I also teach a course called Foundations of Democracy. And we look at the U.S. Constitution. Due process of law is one of the most precious liberties, rights that we have in the United States of America. And you find it all throughout our Constitution. You see it in the 5th Amendment, later in the 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868. Right up there with freedom of speech, right to bear arms, you got due process of law. Due process of law is absolutely necessary in any free country. And so that's precisely why I'm making this video. I'm alarmed at the utter disdain for due process of law exhibited by the Justice Department in the case of this particular prisoner, Jacob Chansley. Now, there's a whole lot of talk about January 6th. I have my views about different things. I'm not focusing on that. I'm just going to focus like a laser on this man in this brief video. I made a tweet, and I only started using Twitter once Elon Musk bought it, so I have very, very few followers. But I made this tweet earlier today. Due process of law matters in this country, whether you're far left or far right. If there's a member of Antifa, like hardcore communist, who is abused by the justice system, I'll speak out about that individual, notwithstanding my severe disagreements with that individual. It matters, no matter what your perspective is, no matter how radical or whatever. What happened to Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon Shaman, is a scandal and blot on the justice system. He needs to be freed immediately. There's no question about that. He was peacefully escorted, we know now, because of the tapes given to Tucker Carlson by Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He was peacefully escorted by police through the Capitol building, who opened the doors for him to allow him onto the House floor, the Senate floor. Look at this video. Most of you have already seen this, but in the event that you have not, watch this video. This is the man who was identified as the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous men in America, and he's now locked up for 4 years. Let's look at this.
Dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides.
Look at this.
Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch. Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th.
So, okay, and again, not commenting at all on the other questions or debates about January 6th, just narrowly on this man. Okay, you could say, oh, Tucker was selectively, picking and choosing. Let's assume that Tucker Carlson was doing something like that, notwithstanding, this is not selective. I mean, this is just video. Okay, there's no. This is look. I mean, look at this. That's not. That's not doctored. And by the way, there have been no denials that this video is legitimate. This is the legitimate video. Like, what is this? What is that? It's ridiculous. And then look, he's just by himself. He's not even. There's not even a second person. Just walking right through. Walking right through. Like, what? What? And so he gets locked up for 4 years. Didn't assault any officers. Didn't commit any vandalism. By the way, if you assaulted an officer, the justice system should go after you 100%. If you committed vandalism at the Capitol, the justice system should go after you 100%. Nobody's denying that. I'm talking about this man gets locked up for 4 years, and this is the worst. To make matters worse, the exculpatory evidence was deliberately withheld from him at trial. And I had a mistake there. He pled. So, but it was that video that we witnessed was deliberately withheld from his defense, from his attorney. Okay, his attorney's name is Albert Watkins. Albert Watkins has since come out and said, we did not have access to that video. We requested this video and we were denied access to it. So he was not given evidence. That's a due process violation. It's unconstitutional. Okay, again, I don't care who you are. You could be a hardcore commie. You have a right in this country. Where is the American Civil Liberties Union? The ACLU used to defend the right of neo-Nazis to march through Jewish neighborhoods. That's in 1978? Okay, the ACLU used to be principled. Even if they disagreed with all of your politics, they stood up for your civil liberties. Where is the ACLU? It shouldn't matter what your politics are, okay? I'm sure there are many people there may be some people watching us who have very, very different politics than I. But we should all be in agreement on the fundamental civil liberties, right? This evidence was withheld from him at trial. His attorney, in the proceedings. Again, he ended up entering into a plea agreement, but he did not have access to this. And the judge and the prosecutors knew it. And I looked into it. I'm not sure about the judge. 100% the federal prosecutors knew this. They knew it. They had it and withheld it. That is illegal. That is unconstitutional. Utterly outrageous and a travesty for the American justice system. By the way, this Chansley guy's a Navy veteran. From what his attorney, Albert Watkins, was saying, he had some mental health issues. Okay. But his attorney, Albert Watkins, calls this, quote, a dagger in the heart of our American justice system. And it is. And again, as a historian, as someone who teaches on the Constitution, how am I supposed to remain silent as I witness this? People have got to speak out. Unfortunately, this issue has been demagogued. And when you demagogue an issue, there's a lot of fear and intimidation about speaking out. I study the Constitution. I'm going to say it flat out. This is a due process violation, and it's extremely grievous that the Department of Justice did this. I mean, he's surrounded by officers who are helping him. So in light of that, if this man, Jacob Chansley, truly deserves the punishment he's gotten, is 4 years in prison, which is more severe than what some violent rapists receive, then the Capitol police officers who escorted him must also be charged as accessories to the crime. And what is the crime? It was trespassing. If you look at the charges, it was pretty vague and ambiguous. Again, never assaulted anybody, didn't commit any vandalism, walked into the Capitol dressed basically as, I think the journalist at the New York Post, Maureen Devine, I think her name is, called him a performance artist. And that's exactly what he was, a performance artist. And so if he's guilty of that, then the officers have to be charged as accessories because they were helping him. They were opening doors. You can't do that. They were escorting him. He and I presume several or many of the other people who were charged that day are political prisoners. Jacob Chansley, bare minimum, is a political prisoner. Again, charge those who committed crimes. If you know, and perhaps trespassing. Okay, 4 years, 4 years, and then when he was escorted by police, given the impression, and he was given by the police the impression that it was okay. That is so wrong and so unconstitutional, illegal. It shouldn't even there shouldn't even be any debate or disagreement about that. But again, everybody demagogues the issue. And the police had every opportunity to arrest him if they wanted. It's not like he was in a large group and he was just one man and they're leading him through. Meanwhile, the riots in summer 2020 following George Floyd's death resulted in more than $2 billion in property damage. The property damage at the Capitol was a little over $1 million. $2 billion in property damage, more than 2,000 police officers injured. On January 6th, about 100 police officers were injured. More than 2,000 police officers injured. There was one day in particular in the D.C. Capitol, not in the Capitol building, but in the Capitol, just outside the White House. Major mobs. They put a church on fire, and in that day, over 180 police officers were injured. Where were the charges? What happened? 19 people killed in a 2-week span during the riots of 2020. David Dorn, a police officer in St. Louis, just shot in cold blood. None of the rioters in summer 2020 were killed by police. So 19 people killed, none of whom were rioters killed by police. Unlike January 6th, where the only death was Ashley Babbitt, killed by a police officer. So I conclude, is true justice even possible in this country anymore with the politicization of the FBI, the intelligence agencies, and DOJ? And shame on those on the left who have allowed their politics to obscure the gross unconstitutionality and illegality of what's gone on. And that's why I think you have seen people on the left who have abandoned sort of the mainstream. Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Bill Maher. You could come up with a whole list. Why are they now sounding like they're, quote, right wing? Not because they're right wing, they're actually liberals, but because the mainstream left has sold out so hardcore, as all of these different agencies are committing these grossly unconstitutional acts. It's a sad picture for America. We need real change in this country, or the light of liberty will be snuffed out very shortly. I'm hopeful, but this is not what a free country looks like. And I'm hoping that we're able to get true justice for these people, and in particular for Jacob Chansley. He should not be in prison. So that's all I have to say. See y'all later. We'll have an inflation update next week when the new numbers come out. So long.